Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online character build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we are taking a look at the Northernwind build. Now this build is a role-playing, casual play type character made primarily for tanking, and it's actually really fun. So it's probably one of my favorite builds I've ever created, and I've gone back and reworked how she plays, how she's designed to bring you a new way of playing her. So I hope you guys are ready for this, because it is completely different. On top of that, also, another disclaimer, you got to remember, being a role-playing casual type build, it is not meta. It is not meant to be meta, it is just meant to play the game and get you through the content. It can take probably, I would say 95% of the content. That means normal dungeons, veteran dungeons, normal trials, veteran trials. I wouldn't try and tank hard mode trials unless you're really skilled with this character and like really experienced with playing an ice staff tank, because that's what they primarily use. So let's go ahead and jump in here and take a look at the build. Starting with the choice here, this is the Northernwind character. Now the whole concept behind this character was, originally I had this really cool idea of a Nordic character who got lost from their family after they were ambushed by a group of giants, and was found by an orc who raised her near Orsinium, like on the edge of Orsinium, not the city but Hrothgar, the land, and was raised there and was taught the ways of this ice magic and basically the Warden tool set. And that's why she's this way, and that's the concept behind the character, is that she learned to manipulate the powers of ice and nature and everything, and she uses it to her advantage. So kind of like an ice mage, you could say, but yeah. Alright, now, as you can see, I did put 24 into Magicka, 40 into health. This is so I could build up my max Magicka pool a little bit and give myself at least 32k health. When I do buff up with a healing ability, I go to 34k health, so I'm more than in range for being a decent tank. Now, the problem is that you really got to watch your Magicka output and your heavy attacks. So you've got to watch that combination when you're tanking with this build, because also when you block, you use Magicka. So, and these are what my stats look like. I have 24k Magicka, 32k health, 19k stamina. I do have a 909 stam recovery. Not very good there, but when you swap bars, it does go to 1003. We are using the Blue Betty to give us resources though, so that does help a little bit. We do have 2311 spell damage with a 42% critical rating. I know the critical rating is through the charts for this type of build, but trust me, it works out in the long run. We do have 22,000 spell resist with 22,000 physical resist. We are using the wrong mundus stone. Let me go grab the right one, because we should be using, you can use either the Lord or the Lady for this. It's really up to you in this form which one you like to use. I like to use the Lady because I like to boost my resistances, so when I do buff up, as you can see, I go to 30-31, and then on the back bar I'm at 31-31. So this is a really good amount of resistances for this. Now the reason I chose Nord is Nord does get more resistances, and it does play this build better than any other class. I mean, you can't really, or the Nord just plays it really well because of that higher resistance level they get naturally. Any race can play this though, you're just not going to have as good of resistances. Lady Mundus Stone for the higher resistances, like I said. We do have minor heroism at all times when we're in combat, and we are using Tri-Stat food. Moving on to the back bar, looking at our sets, our food and potions, we are using Tri-Crown pots for when we're tanking, and when we're playing DPS or damage dealer, we do use the crown, not the crown, but the spell power pots. And then the tripods, you can get these on live. You can craft them or buy them from somebody. The same thing with these. You can craft them or buy them from somebody. These just happen to be the crown versions. We are using longfin pasty with melon sauce. And when I do play healer or tank or damage dealer, I do use the Witch Mother's Potent Brew. And as you can see, I also have a lightning staff and restoration staff. This is for when I'm healing. Here. I know, why use a weapon damage enchant? Never know. So I use this when I'm healing, and I also use this for when I'm doing damage. My damage setup is this staff with this. Yes, I do damage or DPS with that ice staff. I don't heavy attack with it. I only light attack weave with it. I always heavy attack on the back bar from the lightning staff. Alright. So now that you guys have seen this, let's go ahead and go over the sets. Starting with the monster set, everyone knows what it's going to be. It's going to be Ice Heart. Ice Hearts is a phenomenal setup for this because, one, it gives you a little bit of extra spell crit. And when you deal critical damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a damage shield that absorbs 9,976 damage for 6 seconds. While the damage shield holds, you deal 1,031 frost damage to all enemies within 5 meters of you every 1 second. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. The setup I have is really concentrated on keeping you protected, keeping you alive, and then giving you ultimate gen, not for the ultimate you think, but for a different ultimate. Now, moving on to the body pieces, we are using the Juliana set. I know, confusing. A lot of people are going to be like, wait, that's a damage dealer set. Don't worry. For this is how you can play damage with the character. That's why this set is here. So that way you have a set there that allows you to play more damage-based. And you're super tanky anyways, so it doesn't matter. You're going to be up front. You're going to be standing on the front lines anyways. Why not take advantage of it? So this gives you, this one gives you spell crit and then the 2-piece bonus. This one on the 2-piece bonus gives you spell crit, max magicka, spell crit, and spell damage. So this is just stacking a lot of that stuff. Now moving on down here, we have Shulks, and Shulks is a really good set for this because it gives you maximum health, it gives you some spell damage, it gives you more spell crit, and then you gain minor heroism at all times while you are in combat, generating 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. Since we don't use sword and shield, we need a way to get like the same effect as that ultimate gen, and this is going to allow that. Now, the nice thing is that it's the whole time you're in combat. You're gaining 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. It doesn't matter. Alright, now we're going to go over the traits and enchants we have on our gear. Starting with the monster set, we have a Divine's Helm. This is to allow us to take advantage of that higher mundus stone capability. We only have Divines in the helm and the legs. And this is going to maximize our mundus stone capability. Now in the smaller pieces, we do have Sturdy, so we can block, reduce our block cost even more. And then in our main piece, we have Divines also. Okay, so I did go 3 Divines here. I thought I went reinforced. Okay, 3 Divines, 4 Sturdy. And in the big pieces, we do have Tri-Stats. This is so we can do more of a hybridized type thing. If you want to, you can even use this character with a 2-handed sword. You can use them with a ice staff. You can use them with sword and shield. You can use them with a lot of different tools if you want to. I prefer playing ice staff mainly. So... And then on the smaller pieces, we do have magicka enchants to maximize our magicka resources. Alright, moving on to the jewelry. We have 2 trirunes here with spell damage enchants. This is to maximize our damage potential when we're playing damage. And then we have 8 infused with magic recovery to give us higher magic recovery for when we need our magic recovery higher. Mainly for when you're playing a healer. And then, moving on to the weapons, we are using dual ice staves, both bars, so you can see. The front bar is a Nirnhone with a hardening enchant. This is going to boost our spell damage on the front bar. It is going to give us pretty decent spell damage. If you look here, our spell damage does drop by about 200 when we swap bars. So, On the back bar, though, we are using an infused ice staff with a crusher enchant. This is where we're going to be casting our wall of elements. We're going to be doing things like that to keep this applied really well. Alright, now that you guys have seen that, I'm going to go over these two real quick. So we have a lightning staff with a weapon damage enchant infused. This way we can maximize our weapon and spell damage for when we're playing damage dealer, or even when we're playing healer, we can maximize our healing capabilities with this. We do have a powered resto staff for healing also, with a weakening enchant. So you can reduce the enemy's damage output with it. Right, now moving on to the skills. Now I'm going to go over the class skills real quick and let you guys know, make sure, and I say make sure, that you unlock all the abilities and passives that you would want to use with the character. In this case, I unlocked pretty much all Magicka-based abilities, because my character is more Magicka-based than they are Stamina-based. Now moving on to weapons, Destruction Staff and Restoration Staff, both of these passives and abilities, choose the ones that fit you best, and kind of just run with it. Because there's going to be some really crazy things that you can do with this character. Light armor, top 3. Medium armor, top 2, bottom 1. The reason I do this is because I do wear one piece medium, one piece light. I wear a light belt with a medium helm, and everything else is heavy. This way I can maximize my resistance potential. If I went with like medium gloves and a light belt, that would work out better, but it only gives me 100 more resistances over what I have now. So I just leave it the way it is, because getting a medium helm isn't a problem. Monster set helm isn't a problem. It's getting a set that I can get a light belt with that's a problem. Heavy armor, all the passives. This is just going to maximize your ability to be survivable. Alright, moving on to world skills. You can be a vampire with this. I would only suggest doing that if you are a dark elf. Otherwise, don't try to tank with this any other way. We do have the 2 active abilities here and the 3 passives, and I do take the bottom 2 always, because of how they can affect your character later on in gameplay. I do have certain Fighters Guild abilities unlocked, along with the Banish the Wicked and Intimidating Presence for questing. Mage's Guild, I do have all the passives and abilities unlocked because I do use them. Even sometimes when I'm tanking, I might use Ice Comet, sometimes I might use Scalding Ruin, I might even use this to tank with the balance so I can use sacrifice some of my health to get Magicka back. And that's mainly if I'm having resource issues. Now moving on to Sigil Order, same thing. I have certain abilities unlocked that I use for certain situations, and the same thing goes for Undaunted. Have all the abilities and the passives. Now, these I will always tell you to make sure you get both these passives. It's really, really important to get these passives. Anytime you activate a synergy, you're going to get resources, extra resources back. Anytime you activate, or anytime that you're wearing 5 pieces of, or 1 of each armor type, you're going to get 6% of your max stats. Alliance War skills, same thing. I unlock the ones that I think are going to be most effective for me in different roles. And then Nord Race, this is the reason why I picked the Nord Race. First, we do get Revealer, which increases the duration of consumed drinks by 15 minutes, so this helps when I'm playing healer. Then I get increased max health, and I get cold resistance and immunity to chilled status effects. I get increased max stamina, and then when I take damage, you gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. I get really good ultimate gen. And then I also get this, which is the main part of why I'm a Nord. Because the rugged. With this setup, this works out really well. Now moving on to Alchemy, Medicinal Use, and Provisioning, Gourmand, and Connoisseur. Both of these are really, both things are really good to get, the alchemy and the provisioning, and the skill lines aren't too hard to level. And if you just level it enough to where you can just unlock this and this, you don't have to worry about anything else. Because unless you're a crafter, you don't need to worry about that other stuff. Like, this is what you primarily need to worry about in provisioning and that. Now, let's go over the skills we have on our bar. And I know some people are going to complain with my choices, but that's because I don't play like everybody else. I look at how I can take advantage of my character's tools. Starting with the first ability, we have Crushing Shock. Now this does damage, but the main reason when we have it is it does enemies hit while casting are interrupted, set off balance, and stunned for 3 seconds. Now, our job as a tank, a lot of people don't realize this, is to crowd control enemies. So that means reducing their movement speed, keeping them locked in place, and, controlling how they move in the battlefield or in the dungeon or in the different environments we might be in. You've got to learn how to control them and keep them from getting to your allies. So you're going to be using tools to do that. Next ability we have is Crystallized Slab. Now this here does absorb X amount of damage from 3 projectiles. Each time you absorb a projectile, you restore X amount of magicka and launch an icy bolt back at the enemy, dealing X amount of frost damage. That's why I use this one. I like it. It just works really good. The next thing we have is Polar Wind. This does a heal up front and a heal over time. Also, you can also heal a nearby enemy, or ally, sorry, for X amount of health. And this ability scales off your max health. Next ability we have is Elemental Susceptibility. This is on the Destruction Staff skill line. And this will do Major Breach for 24 seconds, reducing the spell resistance of the enemy by 50 to 80. Somebody said, if you're not using Sword and Board, how are you going to apply Major Fracture? There's a lot of classes in this game that have that ability. The Warden itself has Shulks. And I could set the skill for myself, but there's really no reason, because it's not my job to put those debuffs on there. I'm not a damage dealer. And I'm going to be very clear on that. This character is not a damage dealer. It is primarily a tank. And when I am playing damage dealer, I still use this ability. Why? Because it boosts my ability to do damage. And that's kind of the point. You want to be able to amplify anybody's damage you can, no matter what you're doing in any kind of group. Because that's the most important thing. Doing damage is kind of the object of the game. So if I can help the magicka people do DPS, the stamina damage dealers or a stamina tank can help the stamina DPS. The next ability we have on our bar is Structured Entropy. And we have this here just to boost our max health. But it is also a nice heal over time, and it gives us major sorcery. But we mainly have it here for while slotting. That's it. Next ability we have is our ultimate, and that is Aggressive Warhorn. As you can see, this one, sound a warhorn to rally your forces, increasing your allies' max magicka and stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You and your allies gain major force, increasing your critical damage done by 15% for 9 seconds. This is awesome for you. That's why I kind of giggled, was because you're going to be critting a lot. Moving on to the back bar, first ability we have is Gripping Shards. This is an awesome ability. When you set this thing down, it will do a huge ice spike explosion around you. Anything that walks into that or is hit by this is automatically immobilized. So this does, it immobilizes enemies for 3 seconds. It deals X amount of frost damage every second for 12 seconds. Enemies hit are overcome with bitter cold, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. And damage done is based on your max health, and it has a higher chance to apply Chilled Status Effect. Now, that Chilled Status Effect is actually based on your class itself, because you do have a thing called Icy Aura, Chill Glacier Presence, that's it. Increase your chance to apply Chilled to enemies with Winter's Embrace abilities by 200%. That means I can put Chilled on them with this, I can put Chilled on them with this, and this. So I can apply Chilled to a lot of different ways with this character. Now, if I do need a pull or something, I will go over this. I will swap out on this bar, Crushing Shock, and I will use Frozen Device. Now, what this does is this one summons an Ancient Portal, which arms after 1.5 seconds. It's basically a trap. When triggered, the enemy is teleported to you, immobilized for 3 seconds, and dealt X amount of frost damage, and afflicted with Major Maim, reducing their damage done by 30% for 4 seconds. You can have up to 3 frozen devices active at one time. Now, it does cost magicka, a decent chunk of it, but if you can do it right, the nice thing about this ability, and I do want to go over this, is you can set it. And this is what I will do in certain dungeons, like in, what is that one? Vaults of Madness on the final boss, it'll summon ads in certain locations. I will set these out and leave them. So when the mobs spawn, they automatically get teleported right to the group. So we can just burn them down. So it works out really good for that situation. Most of the time, though, I do always run the Crushing Shock. This is situational. Alright. Moving on to the next ability we have on our bar is Blockade of Frost. This deals frost damage over time. It also reduces movement speed of enemies by 40%. And it can chill enemies, or chilled enemies that walk through it are automatically immobilized for 4 seconds. So remember, I have this, and when I lay it down and I swap bars, anything that walks in there has a chance of becoming immobilized, because I have that greater chance, not only for my class, but also for the weapon to have shield applied to the enemies with that wall of frost. Alright, now moving on to the next ability we have, it is Blue Betty. This is our resource management thing. Every time you activate this, by the way, it's an instant cast, costs no resources. Every time you cast this, you're going to start gaining magicka. It's also going to grant you major sorcery, increasing your spell damage, but it also removes 1 negative effect each time you cast it. So if you're in a dungeon and you get a negative effect cast on you, just make sure you cast this. That's all you have to do. Moving on to the next ability, we have Ice Fortress. This is our primary resistance buff. This grants us Major Warden, Major Resolve, increasing physical and spell resistance by 5,280 for 24 seconds. You gain Minor Protection, reducing your damage taken by 8% for 24 seconds. Now, this thing, when you activate it, anyone within 8 meters of you will get the same thing. They will get the Frost Cloak applied to them, so they will get the buff as well, the resistance buff. They won't get the Minor Protection. That only applies to you. Again, structured entropy for our max health. And then the last ability we have is called Northern Storm. This is what this whole build was designed around, was this one ability. Twist a violent storm around you, dealing X amount of frost damage every second for 8 seconds to enemies around you, and reducing their movement speed by 40%. You and nearby allies gain major protection, reducing your damage taken by 30%, and while slotted, you increase your max magicka by 8%. This whole build is designed around this one ability. Everything you do to generate ultimate is to spawn this ability. Why? Because you're going to do damage, and you're going to give everybody in your group 30% damage reduction. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you're really killing your group by doing that, by not using Warhorn. Warhorn is there to boost our ability to do damage. This is to boost our ability to survive. And in some situations, it's better to survive than it is to boost our damage. And that's why I keep this ability on my bar at all times. Even when I'm playing DPS, I will always have this ability on my bar. This ability lives there. And that's because, like I said, the whole idea of this build is built around ice and stuff. Now, it doesn't mean that when I solo play, I might use my Eternal Guardian Bear just to have that, that extra damage capability. I'll use Screaming Cliff Racer, I'll use Deep Fissure, I'll even use Growing Swarm, and sometimes when I play healer, I use a lot of healing abilities. But 90% of the time, I'm using ice. And that's because it just works so well with this character. The whole concept of this character is to work with ice. Alright. And again, like I said, I know a lot of people will argue about how this build works. But trust me, this thing is a monster in a dungeon. This thing can you can walk through dungeons. You can solo dungeons with this thing. And all you have to do is respec yourself, and by putting all your attributes into magicka. Because you'll still have like 24k health with your buff, and this thing will and you'll have like 30 something k magicka, and you can solo dungeons. Most dungeons on normal, a lot of dungeons on veteran, unless it has like a 2-person mechanic to it, like Fungal Grotto 2, where you get chained down to the ground by the second boss or third boss or something. She'll chain you down to the ground. That's a 2-player mechanic. It requires more than one person in there. But a lot of the dungeons you can solo with this build. It's that powerful. So, yeah. That's why I like it so much. But now that you guys have seen the skills, I am going to go ahead and jump over to the champion points and show you how I have my champion points set up. Starting with the red tree, we have 66 in Ironclad. This reduces your damage taken from direct damage attacks by 22%. Moving on over here, we have 31 into Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. 56 into Hardy, reducing physical poison disease damage by 12%. 56 in Elemental Defender, reducing Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. And then moving on over here, we have 40 into Bastion. This is primarily to boost the Ice Heart Shield. Then we have 19 into Quick Recovery and 2 into Heavy Armor Focus. Moving on over here, we have 40 into Warlord, reducing your break free cost by 16%. 16 into Sprinter, reducing your sprint cost by 10%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your bash cost by 10%. And then moving on over here, we have 43 into Arcanist, increasing magic recovery by 10%. 75 into Tenacity to increase your magicka and stamina return of your fully charged heavy attacks by 14%. And then 40 into Tumbling, reducing the cost of roll dodge by 16%. Same thing with Shadow Ward. We have 40 points in here, reducing your block cost by 16%. I am going to tell you now, I am going to go over some stuff about the Ice Staff here in a second, but I want to get through the CP first. Moving on, we have 43 into Blessed, increasing your healing done by 10%. 56 in Elfborn, increasing your critical damage and critical healing with magic abilities by 20%. 56 into Elemental Expert, increasing your Flame, Frost, Shock, and magic damage by 12%. And then moving on to the middle tree, we have 35 in a Staff Expert, increasing your damage done with light and heavy attacks with Destruction and Resto Staffs by 20%. 40 into Master at Arms to increase your direct damage done by 40%. And then over here, or 16%. And then we have 40 into Thaumaturge, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects by 16%. This is the best setup I have found for this character in CP. Now, a lot of people are going to wonder how you tank with an Ice Staff. An Ice Staff has 2 passives in the Destruction skill line that give you the ability to tank. The first one is Tri-Focus, fully charged Frost Staff heavy attacks, taunt the enemy to attack you for 15 seconds, and granting you a damage shield that absorbs 3,029 damage. Now, while a Frost Staff is equipped, blocking costs magicka instead of stamina. Now, when you go down to Ancient Knowledge, equipping a Frost Staff reduces the cost of blocking by 36% and increases the amount of damage you can block by 20%. They make really excellent Ice Staff tanks, Wardens do. Because of their class and design, with the Winter's Embrace stuff, Glacier Presence increases your chance to apply Chilled, which means with Wall of Ice, you can get that immobilized more effectively. Frozen Armor increases your physical and spell resistance for each Winter's Embrace ability slotted. Icy Aura reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 15%, and then Piercing Cold increases your magicka and frost damage by 6%. This is another reason why I like Wardens so much, is you get that 6% increase in Flame Frost Shot, or in magic and frost damage. So when you guys look over here real quick at the CP, remember we get 6% frost. You add that to 12. That is an 18% damage increase in total. Alright, now I am going to show you guys this in action in a dungeon, of course. I wouldn't leave off without doing that, and I really want to show you guys this thing in a dungeon so you guys can see for yourselves how it works. Now, I'm just going to go in here to tank it. I'm not going to go in here to be a damage dealer or anything. Pretend I'm tanking it, okay? And somebody said to me the other day, you need to show these builds in action on the live servers. I have in the past a few times, and constantly I just got ridiculed for it, so I just was like, okay, if I'm going to get ridiculed no matter what I do, I'm just going to keep doing it like this. The other reason why I show stuff like this is because I don't always have a group with me on PTS. As you can see, my friends list shows 0 people most of the time. Every once in a while I might have one person, and then every so often there is a group of people that I do some testing with that do get on. But a lot of them haven't been on in a while, because a lot of them have moved on to other games because they got burned out on the way ESO is. Because there's just really nothing for them to do that they haven't done already. Alright, buffs up. There's Ice Heart procced. And remember when I said this thing is all about using that Northern Wind? And to taunt with the Ice Staff is really easy, okay? All you do is heavy attack. That's it. Now, heavy attack, that's a fully charged heavy attack. That's a partial charge. You can still get the taunt to go off on a partial charge, usually. So, like, as soon as your arm gets all the way back, like this, just let it go, and you should be able to taunt them. Okay. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and do that, too. The reason why is so I can get another heal going, just to show you guys the effectiveness of the heals and everything. And if you guys are wondering why I'm throwing a lot of heavy attacks, it's mainly because with the Ice Staff and your heavy attack, you get a lot of resources back. So you can just pretty much maintain a non-stop casting of abilities as long as you're doing that heavy attack. So you can see these guys are immobilized. Even before I put down the ice spikes, they became immobilized from the Ice Staff. Alright, so the other thing I want you to understand is, just imagine, I'm in here by myself. Now imagine me in here with 4 other people who understand how my character works and plays. This would work even better, because now my group can work around that. I am running low on the resources, but I'm just going to heavy attack so I can do that. Let me get my Betty Netch back up. Get a heavy attack again. Now, you can over-taunt in this. I will not lie. You can do that. That is a common thing that people do. But with an Ice Staff, it's a lot harder to over-taunt because of the fact of the way it's designed. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put Tri-Stat Pots on so I can actually take advantage of those. And yes, I can solo this guy. It's not that hard. Like I said, this character is really powerful. They're meant to be like this, though. And I wouldn't say they're super powerful, but they are. This is a really good setup for it. Because of the ultimate gen and everything else. Alright, go ahead and kill me, dude. If you can. I'm gonna let it just kill me. Like I said, if you can. It takes a little bit. Finally. Alright. But that is the Northernwind, guys. It's one of my, like I said, one of my favorite builds I've ever created in this game. And the reason why I like it so much is it just works so good at what it does. It is a tank. It is meant to be this person that can just take a beating and is more like a battle mage kind of thing than anything. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. And also remember, everything with this build is just suggestion. That means the skills, the gear sets, the traits, the mundus stone, all that stuff is just suggestion. Even the race is suggestion. This is how I play the character on live. This is how I play this character. Have played this character for a long time now, and that's because it just works so good for me as a player. So, and that's pretty much it. So you guys know what's coming next. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.